Hey there everyone, good evening, welcome to the workshop. And I know some of you are interested and hoping that I'll get some more work done on the 1937 Epiphone, but that's I really haven't done anything on that one in other than play it. And I was able to get it playable, and so now I've just got finishing stuff, binding and stuff like that. So those I'm going to get back on that, and those videos will be coming. But I've got a show coming up, and this is my Taylor guitar on the bench here today, and I've got a little issue with it. I'm going to explain to you what's going on and where everything is, and all of that hopefully makes sense, and then kind of bring you along as I do some fitting and testing and all of that. So again, my Taylor, if you go back, I think my very first video was about this Taylor and doing some work on it and all of that. And since that time, the guitar has developed an issue. And here is the saddle. Let me bring it up, see if I can. I've really had to sand this down quite a bit. As you can see, there's, and I mean, this was actually in the slot. So if you can imagine how much this was sanded down. And these first two strings here, the E string and the B string, were really about to lose break angle over the saddle. So I contacted Taylor and emailed their support and went a little, I don't really want to say I went round and round with them, but kind of I had some emails back and forth. There wasn't anything heated or arguments or anything like that at all, but the guitar's under lifetime warranty because, to me, it's registered to me and all of that. But basically the support guy was wanting me to take it to an authorized support or an authorized service center to have a neck reset done. And he pointed me to one place that's about 45 minutes away, and I contacted that person, and they weren't interested in doing the warranty work. So I reached back out to the guy from Taylor and basically said, look, this really shouldn't be that difficult. Tell me what to measure and all of that. And then, because he initially told me that if I could tell him which set of shims, and I'm going to explain, can you see the shims over there? Let me kind of maybe zoom in a little bit. You can see the shims there. He said if I could tell him which set of shims I needed, that he would send it to me. Well, he ended up, based on the measurements on the guitar, he sent me 3 sets. So that kind of tells you we're going to play a little bit of a trial and error thing here to get this guitar back in playable condition. Again, let me kind of see how far I can get you zoomed in, maybe even a little bit further here, so you can see the bridge and the saddle, because that's what we need to be able to see there. Okay, so you can see I've got a brand new, this was one of the requirements to get their measurements the way they wanted them. They wanted a brand new unaltered saddle. So I had to order a new saddle, which I was going to have to do anyway with this being sanded down so much. Was not going to be usable to me anyway. But I've explained this to you before. So I took my straight edge, and I've still got you way zoomed in, but I took my straight edge, came down the fretboard like I've done on so many other guitars, and I am right at, I won't say it's hitting, but man, there is no clearance there at all. So the neck angle is like this. I'm way exaggerating, and it should be like this, and it's like this. Again, that's a huge exaggeration. So what he asked me for were measurements. He said, put, their requirements, put in a saddle that was unaltered. So I ordered that and put that in. And then he wanted a measurement at the 12th fret, which would be here, of the action. And of course, for some reason, guitar lingo, we have to do this stupid thing of measuring everything in 64ths. So can you see? Try to focus camera. Can you see that? So I've got the little gauge here that measures in 64ths. And even if it's an even 64th number, let's say, because these measurements came out, tell you how bad it is with the saddle, the unmodified saddle, and then the action at the 12th fret is 10 64ths on the low E and 8 64ths on the high E. And the Taylor spec, according to the tech that I had emails with, should be 6 and 4. Well, I like to play my guitars at 5 and 4, which if you do the math, 5 64ths comes out to approximately 80 thousandths of an inch. It's actually 79, but 80 works, and then 70 on this side. So that's why I use, for those of you that want to question why I measure things in thousandths instead of, how many 64ths of an inch and blah, blah, blah. It's just way easier. Took an old, I've taken old saddles like this and with my calipers and gotten a very accurate, 80 thousandths, 70 thousandths. So, I can just put that right under there. And as soon as it's touching, boom, I know my action is good. So that's why I do that. It's just way easier for me. So the task, and I hope I'm not rambling way too much, but I measured this and trying to find, here's the 64th. So, I did the measurement here and the measurement here just so I could give him the proper, okay, here's how many 64ths, because that's what they asked for. So I sent him 10 and 8 because that's what it measures. It's brand new saddle, full string tension, all of that. That's what he asked for. So they sent me, move you over here, he sent me 3 sets of shims and told me which order to try them. And the other information I had to give was I had to actually take the neck off, which I'm going to show you how to do that for those of you that have never maybe messed with the Taylor neck. And so I had to send him also which shim set was already in the guitar. And I forget what it was. I think it was like a 12 and a 6 or a 12 and an 8 or something like that. So I just don't remember. I'll be able to, I guess I could tell you once I get the thing apart. So what I'm trying to determine right now is, do we go for, we've got a 24 and an 18, we've got a 26 and a 20, and we've got a 28 and a 22. So he said to try these pairs to see which would bring the guitar back into Taylor specs, which would be at the 12th fret, 6 64ths. Again, we can't do math in guitar world apparently, but 6 64ths and 4 64ths. So my debate at this point is, do I start with the lowest and work my way up, which means I could have to take the neck off 3 to 4 times, 3 times, I guess, to possibly get it right? Or do I just start with the middle one and hope that puts the right amount of angle in the guitar, and then if I need to go up or down from there, then I would only have to take the neck off one more time. So that's my internal debate at this point. And I honestly think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to start with the 26 and the 20. So I'm going to set these others just off to the side here. And then measure everything and string everything up and all of that and see where that gets me. But just give me a second. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera, and I've got to get the strings off to a point where I can get inside the sound hole, because there's actually 3 bolts that have to come out to get the neck. Oh, the other thing that they wanted as far as the measurement, I had to do a truss rod adjustment because they wanted the neck in a totally flat state. So I made the neck flat, new saddle, string tension, measurement. So that's what they wanted. And Taylor's factory spec, just you can check your own guitar, should be 6 64s over here, 4 64s over here. And string action, that is personal, kind of personal preference, depending on, you know, things like how hard you play your guitar and all of that. I'm more of a strum rhythm player, so I play kind of hard, but I get 5 and 4, and again that's 64ths, so 80 and 70, and it does pretty good. So I usually don't have any issues with that. But let me get these strings off, and then I'm going to show you how to get this neck off of here. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, back with you. As you can see, I've got the strings temporarily. Basically what I did is I just stuck a capo on here, loosened the string, stuck a capo on here, and then I could take the strings out, and I don't have to worry about them coming unwound at the other end. I'm not changing these strings at this point. So let me just show you really quickly a comparison. You can see the stock saddle, and there's the one that, see how far I've had to shave that down to get the guitar playable. And again, I was just losing some break angle, which does affect your sound. So that's, you know, you gotta kind of watch all of that stuff. So we're just going to leave that in there for now. And there are 3 bolts that, and I don't think with my camera, I don't think I'll be able to show them to you, but if you go out on a Google thing and you know, type them in, you know, somebody's taken a picture up in there. But there's a bolt on the underside of the fretboard extension, so just right inside the guitar here, going up that way to hold the fretboard in, and you'll need a 3/16 Allen for that guy. Can you see? 3/16 Allen wrench. And then into the guitar this way, into the neck, through the neck block, there are 2, I believe there are 2 bolts going into the neck, and you'll need a 7/16. And in my case, I'm using a socket. Again, with this kind of stuff, you got to be careful, because, you know, it is a guitar and all that. You're not working on a car here, so you got to be careful. But you'll need the 7/16, and then it's helpful. I've got relatively small hands, so that's a bit helpful as well. If you have big hands, then this might be an issue. And again, with all of the bolts, it's, you know, lefty loosey, righty tighty, all that kind of stuff. So you got to remember that as well. You definitely don't want to break anything. And you know, as you're tightening these back, and I'll explain this more when I'm putting it back together, but when you go to tighten it, you know, you want these pretty snug. You do not want them working their way loose, but you don't want it to the point where you're going to break anything either. So hopefully it's not really much to see here, but, and there's So I guess I'm not too worried about blocking you. But there's the screw for the fretboard extension, and it has a washer on it, so make sure you actually has 2 washers on it. So make sure you get all of that out of there. And again, that's a 3/16 Allen for that. And then for the actual neck, you'll need a 7/16. And I'm just using a socket. What I'm going to do is reach inside and get the socket on the bolt, and then reach in with my driver, hopefully coordinated enough to do all this. And again, carefully, and it won't take long until it's to the point where you can just turn it by hand. So there's the first one. You kind of have to feel around for them. There's 2 of them, and one is up kind of high, so and I did make sure everything was tight, by the way. So for those of you that might be wondering, well, was it just loose and that was causing the bad neck angle? No. So I did check all of that everything was tight, which it was. So there's one of the bolts. Here's the other one also, and that has these have washers on them as well, so make sure you get that. And then from that point, the neck just releases. And so I could maybe turn this around so you can see here. Get it in the camera, maybe. Yeah, so there's the 2 neck bolts, and then the fretboard extension there. Okay, so I'm going to set this to the side for just a second, and then can show you what I've got. Can I? Well, maybe I'll just take them out, and then I can show you. So there's a 12 and a 6 is what I've currently got in my guitar. So that was the other bit of information I had to send to Taylor, was what's currently in the guitar. There's a 12. Can you see those? Focus, camera. Yeah. 12 and a 6. And so we're going from 12 to 26 and from 6 to 20. So if I used my calipers, I could probably tell you the difference in the thickness of the shims, but if I really cared about that. But I think we're just going to go for this. And again, I'm trying the middle set first, just to see where we are. And I think what I'm going to try to do is hold this, or maybe even just put a clamp on it to see if I can check the neck angle without having to put all the bolts back in. All right, I'm back, and as you can see, I've got the neck back on. It is in place, and I put a clamp here. There's leather underneath to protect the body of the guitar, and then I've got the clamp on the fretboard here. If I take my straight edge now and I lay it down, and I always try to do, you know, down the middle of the fretboard, I've got pretty decent amount of clearance at the bridge. Yeah, I think let me see if I can zoom that in so you can see there. Can you see that? Before, the straight edge was right, it wasn't hitting, but there was no clearance. It was like that. Now you can see how much it's raised there. So that is the middle set of shims, and I think what I might do is just go with that, get the neck screwed back together, put the saddle in, some string, tighten the strings up, and see how our measurement comes out. So I think this one might work. Let me pause. I'm going to put the bolts back in. You watched me take them out. I don't think you need to watch me put them back in. But I'm going to put the bolts back in, get the strings back on, put the saddle back in, all of that. I'll bring you back and show you how we came out. Welcome back. It's been a few minutes since I've been with you. Let me just bring you back. I'll close out this video and kind of explain what I ended up doing. As I mentioned to you, I had these sets, and actually there was a third set at a 24, 26, 28, and a 18, 20, and 22. I put this one in first, and when I strung everything up, we were still out of spec. So I went back and put the largest set in that they sent, and then kind of strung everything up, and it's really, really good. I went back and also readjusted. I had to straighten the neck, so I reset my neck relief, so I loosened off the truss rod just a touch, and everything feels great. I'm going to play it for a while. You can see I did have to put new strings on. All the winding and unwinding and all that, it ended up breaking a string, so I put a new set of strings on it. It probably needed it anyway. I was just going to hold off for a little bit, but I went ahead and put them on there. And so I'm going to play the guitar a little bit, see how it does. You can see we've got much better break angle across the back of the saddle, so all of that's good. And the saddle height, I showed you the original one that I had in there. This saddle is actually 100 thousandths, so you figure an eighth of an inch is 125 thousandths, and it's 100 thousandths taller. So that'll give you some idea of how much taller this saddle is. And so that's just going to give better break angle and better sound, better ring on these bottom two strings for sure. So anyway, I showed you that. The other thing I didn't show you, let me grab real quick. There's a little sticker that's over the neck bolts on the inside of the guitar, and you can see I forgot to put it back on, so I'm gonna just keep it here in the workshop, and the next time I have the strings off, I will stick that back on there. I did have permission to take the neck off, so I'm not too worried about that. So I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for following along, and hopefully I'll be back on the other guitar and get that one finished off and put out some more parts of that video, the 1937 Epiphone and the case for it and all of that. But been really busy around here the last few weeks, so I haven't had time to mess with it too much, but getting ready to play a show here, and I needed to get this taken care of. So thanks for following along. Hopefully it showed you something about the whole Taylor bolt-on neck and neck reset system and all of that. Pretty simple. And thanks for following along. Thumbs up, subscribe, all of that, and I'll see you next time on the channel.